In this video, we're going to look at how we can work with arrays of objects and reformat them so they're a bit more readable. So it's not actually changing how they're executed, but it makes it easier for us as humans to work with them in code. Start off, I want you to pause the video and see if you can look at this array of objects. And I'm going to tell you there are two missing commas, and I want you to see how long it takes you to spot both of them. So now you've had a chance to pause and think about it. So here are the rules we're thinking about. We're thinking about this is an array, so I need commas separating things in my array, the elements in my array. It's also looks like it's got objects inside, and objects have key value pairs, which must be separated by commas as well. So let's go through. I've got an array, I've got an object, key value pair, comma, another key value pair, end of object, comma, object, key value pair, comma, key value pair, end of object, comma, object, key value pair, comma, another key value pair, end of object, no comma there. That's the first one that's missing. You need a comma to separate this object from this object in my array. Then object, key value pair, no comma. So I'm also missing a comma here, separating these two key value pairs inside this final object. And it's actually just really tedious to go through it like that and just find the commas. Like, it's just like, attention to detail thrown us, but it's boring, and we can make it easy for ourselves. To make it easier for ourselves, I'm going to demo using a site, repl.it, and I'm going to start coding in JavaScript, which is a language that we've been learning. And you'll get something which looks like this. And I'm going to show you now how we can improve the formatting of that object to make it more readable. So I've pasted in that array of objects which had two missing commas. So remember how tedious it was to go through and look and try and find the commas. So here's how we can reformat this to make it easier. When you open your array, especially if it's a big long array like this one, immediately press return, have a line break, and a code editor will normally automatically give you a tab like that, which is good. I'm just going to go through, I find the end of that first element, the comma there, I have another return there. The end of that next element, another return. The end of that next element, I have another return. And the end of the final element, I return once more. And I have that de-indented. So this indent comes from the tab key. So when I press the tab key, it moves in and out like that. So a backspace to move it out, but we want the tab for it to be indented like this. And the reason for this formatting is it makes it easier as it stands to check for one of the types of missing commas at the end of a line, because remember, a line now represents a single element in my array. So every single line I know should have a comma end, apart from the last one, where I don't need to comma space into another. And so if I know it's not working, it's really easy for me to scan quickly down the end and be like, there. Needs to be a comma there. So formatting this way, where you have one element per line, makes it easier to spot that error. I've added in the number of days of each month. I'm going to show you how else we can kind of improve formatting to make it a bit easier. So this next step, you don't have to do, but it's if you have objects which are getting quite long. You might want to also separate the key value pairs, each on a separate line. I'll make myself smaller. And what you see here is there's a kind of pattern emerging where, again, similar to the array, there's this idea that we are indenting one further level. And similar to the array, where when you close the array, that comes out to the same level as the start of the array. When you close the object, that comes out to the same level as the start of the object. And the reason we do this formatting is because it makes it easy to check for that second type of mistake, which is, remember, key value pairs we know must be separated by commas. And because each key value pair is on a separate line, if I want to check, oh, it's not working, let me have a quick scan through. I can see that that's got a comma, that's got a comma, that's got a comma. The last one doesn't need a comma. This one here, though, this key value pair, I can see scanning down is missing a comma there. And so it's easier to, again, spot other mistakes this way. So I can confirm that this works by pasting what I've got there in, and I can see it's recognized as an array which has 4 things, each of which is an object representing a month with a name, season, and a number of days. And again, just to show that if I were to say delete this one here, delete this one here, I copy all of that, I paste that in. Syntax error, oh no. Probably missing commas. Let me check 2 things. I need to check that my elements in my array are separated by commas. I need to check my key value pairs inside objects are separated by commas. So I'm going to run down this line here first, because that's the end of my object. So it's really easy to scan down. As I scan down that line, I see, aha, missing a comma there. And then I'm going to scan down the line, end of the lines here, to make sure my key value pairs are all separated by commas. The final ones don't need to be, but as I'm scanning down, I see here. And so I can now copy that, paste it, and it's accepted. I can contrast this setup to, if we go back to how we were formatting it before, this here, this is also valid. So both of these, they're actually expressing the same information, but this one's being formatted in a way which is just easier for us as humans to work with. Because if I were to delete 2 random commas from this one here, in fact, let me do that. So I've just deleted the same 2 commas from both, from here and also from here, which is going to be easier to debug and find where the commas are missing. This is just horrible to look through. Whereas this one here, remember, we can just run our eyes down and scan for the missing commas. And I can see running down, missing a comma there, and also one here. And finally, in terms of indenting, here I'm going to highlight, or I'm going to de-indent all the lines with Command, or if you're on Windows Control, Command on Mac, left square bracket, de-indents. And here, without the indents, this is still valid, so I can paste that in, and JavaScript's happy to accept it. So this isn't about writing code that is kind of valid or invalid, but this is much harder to see the relation of the data. It's not as easy to scan through either. If I bring back the indents, it's easier for me to see how this relates to the array, where the array has inside it these objects, as represented by the fact that they're indented 1 level, and that object inside it has these key value pairs, as represented by the fact that it's indented 1 level. So that just represents that kind of structure in a way which, as a human, for me, this is easier for me to work with than it is for this. So that's a good reason to have those indents, and this is also more conventional in the JavaScript world, and it's handy to know what the different conventions are, so you can follow them, other people can work with your code, and you can work with other people's code as well. So some common ways I see people write this, which isn't quite conventional. So this is one way of seeing, which is a bit better, but remember that you have a return conventionally after the opening of an array. So looking at that in this REPL site, this would instead be returned onto its own line and the end square bracket as well. We brought out onto a line and then sent back into line with the start of that array. Something else I see might be this, where, okay, you've got the properties indented from the object, that's good, but still here we haven't got that array, sorry, that object indented separately from the array. So to look at that over here, instead, what I would do there is do something like this, where that is indented 1 level. These are now all indented further 1 level from this object. So remember, it's Control or Command if you're on Mac, right square bracket. The end of the array needs to be on a separate line to this object, and then this would be indented like this here, which will make it a bit clearer, especially if you then go on to add more objects like India and so on. And this one here, this is similar to the kind of first thing here, but instead it's a kind of key value pair where this is start an object, and it'd be more common to bring this key value pair onto a separate line. So what that looks like in practice then is that's indented like that, and this object brought back out on its own line, inline there. And so that way the structure is a little more clear. And remember, none of this is totally necessary. The reason this is all for readability rather than validity in JavaScript. So it was valid JavaScript before, but this way makes it more readable, so it's easier for us to add to, and it's easy for other people to work with. So for example, if I want to add another kind of key value pair in, say maybe China, I want to say the language is Mandarin, and then I run this, perhaps, and as I paste it in, I see, oh dear, I've got an error. Let me check I've got all those things in order. Oh, I can scan down, I can see that there I'm missing a comma. Let me try that again. There we go. So it's easier to add to and build on if you format this way with discipline. So to embed your learning from this, you can use an array of objects to represent a group of people you know, format it for readability. So you might be using actually the same array of objects you had from the last video, this time formatting using what we learned in this video. So in this video, we've been looking at taking an array of objects. It was valid before, we've been reformatting it so it's easier for us to maintain. And the next video, we're going to use all of this to make our chatbot actually say something.